The ancient, wind-swept grounds of the Sandringham estate have just become the central battleground for an unprecedented institutional war that has permanently altered the inner hierarchy of the British monarchy. Princess Anne has done something completely unheard of in modern royal history, bypassing traditional family channels and deploying elite corporate lawyers to formally lock Queen Camilla out of a historic wing of the Norfolk sanctuary. This was not a public screaming match, a leaked email, or a minor administrative disagreement discussed over afternoon tea. This was a cold, calculated legal strike involving binding contracts and official property documentation that has left the Queen Consort in a state of absolute paralyzed shock. By formally securing legally binding usage rights to a specific historical wing of the private estate, the Princess Royal has effectively slammed a heavy oak door in Camilla's face, permanently blocking her planned summer retreat before it could ever begin. In the high society world of the British aristocracy, and particularly within the inner rings of the royal family, property is never just physical brick and mortar. Property represents raw status, long-term influence, ancestral leverage, and ultimate institutional dominance. For generations, the royal family has managed its private residences through unwritten understandings, discreet family traditions, and quiet, respectful honor codes that existed without the need for external legal intervention. The moment Princess Anne felt compelled to bring high-powered solicitors into the private affairs of Sandringham, it signaled to the entire global community that the informal trust holding the royal family together has completely collapsed. No, this isn't just a routine real estate update or a simple seasonal adjustment to the estate's holiday rotation. This is a definitive execution of raw administrative power, an ice-cold warning shot fired from the ultimate enforcer of the bloodline directly at the desk of the Queen Consort. The palace is currently navigating an absolute state of internal panic as the realization sets in that the old family rules no longer apply. Before we explore the terrifying backstory that triggered this legal ambush, and the devastating confrontation involving Prince Andrew that pushed Princess Anne over the edge, please take a quick, respectful moment to support our channel by liking this video and subscribing to this channel right now. Your support is the only shield we have to bypass palace censorship, break the silence of the courtiers, and bring the undeniable truth directly to you. Thank you. To fully understand why this sudden legal lockout is sending massive seismic shockwaves through palace corridors, you must realize that Sandringham Estate occupies a completely unique position in the royal portfolio. Unlike Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle, which are held in a complex historical state trust under the Crown Estate, Sandringham is entirely private property. It was originally purchased in 1862 by Queen Victoria as a private personal gift for her son, the future King Edward VII, and it has been passed down privately from monarch to monarch ever since as a personal family heirloom. It does not belong to the British government, it is not accountable to the taxpayer or Parliament, and it is completely funded and maintained by the sovereign's personal wealth. Spanning over 20,000 acres of sweeping Norfolk farmland, the estate houses several distinct residences, including the Grand Main Sandringham House, Wood Farm Cottage, where Prince Philip spent his quiet retirement years, and Anmer Hall, the country sanctuary of Prince William and Princess Catherine. Sandringham has always been the royal family's ultimate private sanctuary, their final fortress against the unyielding pressures of the outside world. It is the sacred ground where generations of monarchs have gathered for Christmas, where Queen Elizabeth II spent her quietest winter months, and where the family goes to truly step out of the public eye and escape the suffocating glare of global public cameras. Because the estate belongs personally to whoever sits on the throne, access to its various wings, cottages, and private apartments has always been governed strictly by goodwill, tradition, and personal relationships rather than binding legal contracts. That informal system worked seamlessly for over a century, right up until the fragile trust between Princess Anne and Queen Camilla completely disintegrated behind closed doors. The deep-seated friction between the Princess Royal and the Queen Consort is not a recent development born out of modern palace gossip. The roots of this ideological Cold War stretch back over 5 decades into the chaotic, highly public history surrounding King Charles and Camilla's early relationship in the 1970s. When Charles eventually married Princess Diana, it created severe, lasting fractures within the family dynamic that altered the history of the crown forever. The eventual collapse of that tragic marriage, followed by years of explosive public scandals and relentless media warfare, left deep psychological wounds across the institution that never fully healed. For decades, Camilla endured intense global scrutiny and hostility before she was gradually integrated into the royal fold and eventually crowned Queen Consort. During that exact same tumultuous era, Princess Anne was quietly building her legendary reputation as the most disciplined, tireless, and fiercely protective member of the entire monarchy. As the hardest-working royal year after year, conducting hundreds of grueling official engagements while keeping her personal life tightly shielded from public gossip, Anne developed a ruthless, uncompromising philosophy: the institution comes first, always, without exception. That fundamental difference in life philosophy meant that Anne and Camilla were naturally destined to clash. Anne is intensely practical, deeply protective of bloodline loyalty, and completely unimpressed by social maneuvering. Camilla's position, by contrast, relies heavily on soft power, personal relationships, and public relations strategies. Most of the time, that underlying tension was kept buried behind polished smiles, but recent domestic crises forced the latent hostility directly into the light. The immediate catalyst that transformed this long-standing tension into an open legal war was the catastrophic downfall of Prince Andrew. The Duke of York's removal from public life, the stripping of his military titles, and his complete ban from official duties represented one of the most humiliating chapters in modern royal history. After being forced to vacate Royal Lodge in Windsor, Andrew was eventually relocated to Wood Farm Cottage on the quiet grounds of the Sandringham estate. But when fresh legal scrutiny and high-profile police presence expanded onto the private Norfolk grounds, the optics for the monarchy became an absolute nightmare. Inside the private council rooms, this crisis triggered a fierce, irreconcilable division between Princess Anne and Queen Camilla. Princess Anne, looking at Andrew not as a public relations liability, but as her biological brother, argued passionately for basic human dignity and family loyalty. She believed that even as the public institution distanced itself from his actions, the private family had a moral obligation not to completely abandon a broken prince in his darkest hour. Queen Camilla took an aggressively opposite stance. According to senior palace sources, Camilla argued with cold precision that maintaining any visible support or sanctuary for Andrew risked permanently reopening devastating public wounds that the monarchy had spent years trying to heal. In her view, protecting the future of the crown required absolute isolation, swift detachment, and zero mercy for the disgraced duke. No, this wasn't a routine difference of opinion over family strategy or a minor debate about scheduling. This was a high-stakes battle for the absolute soul of the royal household. Anne saw Camilla's ruthless public relations approach as a cold, calculating betrayal of basic family bloodlines, while Camilla viewed Anne's insistence on compassion as a dangerous, reckless threat to the public standing of the king's reign. The confrontation over Prince Andrew took existing personal grievances and escalated them into an absolute point of no return. Once two of the most powerful women in the kingdom find themselves on opposite sides of a moral line that deep, every single interaction that follows becomes heavily charged with suspicion. That intense suspicion set the stage for Princess Anne's brilliant, preemptive legal strike. Recognizing that quiet family conversations could no longer be trusted to protect her household's long-term interests, Princess Anne quietly instructed her personal legal representatives to draft formal, legally binding usage rights to a specific historic wing of the Sandringham estate. To be completely clear, Princess Anne is not claiming actual financial ownership of the land itself, as Sandringham remains the private property of King Charles. What the Princess Royal accomplished was a masterclass in aristocratic property law. She converted informal, historical family arrangements into binding occupancy licenses that cannot be altered, reassigned, or revoked on a whim. The timing of this legal maneuver was executed with lethal precision. Intelligence had reached Princess Anne that Queen Camilla was quietly preparing to establish a new, low-profile summer retreat at Sandringham. For decades, Camilla's ultimate personal sanctuary had been Ray Mill House, her private country home in Wiltshire, where she could step away from the suffocating protocols of royal life. However, as Camilla gradually integrated more fully into the official sovereign estate system and relinquished aspects of her external independence, she began eyeing Sandringham as an appealing, highly secure summer haven, while King Charles spent extended periods at Balmoral in Scotland. Camilla envisioned transforming a specific quiet wing of the Norfolk house into her own private retreat. By formalizing her household's exclusive occupancy rights over that exact wing right now, Princess Anne effectively slammed the door shut before Camilla could ever lay claim to the space. The practical result of this legal move is completely absolute. A door that might have been opened through subtle persuasion or quiet influence over the king has now been permanently locked through binding legal paperwork. Camilla found herself completely blocked from establishing her new sanctuary, not by an emotional family argument that could be smoothed over by courtiers, but by cold, unyielding legal ink that even the queen consort cannot break. This unexpected legal barrier strikes at a deeply vulnerable psychological space for Queen Camilla. Throughout her entire public life, Camilla has fought an uphill battle against the persistent narrative that she was an outsider, a controversial figure who was never fully embraced by the core inner circle of the bloodline. Even after achieving the pinnacle of royal status as queen consort, the painful reality remains that certain senior family members view her presence as something that must be constantly managed and contained. To discover that her own sister-in-law had lawyered up specifically to erect a legal boundary inside a private family estate was a devastating, deeply personal sting. It sent a loud, unmistakable message that despite her high title, her access to private family property remains strictly limited. The structural position this places King Charles in is deeply agonizing. Sandringham belongs to him personally, yet he finds himself caught directly in the crossfire between the two most influential women in his life: his fiercely loyal, hardworking sister and his essential life partner. Both women possess formidable personalities, unyielding convictions, and massive influence over the daily operations of the crown. Princess Anne has been the rock of the institution for decades, a steady, unwavering pillar who supported the family through every single storm. Queen Camilla, on the other hand, is the monarch's crucial emotional anchor, the calming presence who stands beside him as he navigates his own serious health battles and the immense pressures of the throne. Trapped between these two powerful forces, King Charles has adopted the traditional royal defense strategy: complete, absolute silence. The monarch has refused to publicly address the legal maneuver or force a dramatic confrontation, hoping that time will soften the sharp edges of the dispute. But institutional silence does not erase underlying structural tension. The presence of formal legal documents governing private property inside the royal household is a reality that cannot simply be wished away. You do not bring solicitors into a family property dispute unless the fundamental mechanics of personal trust have completely broken down. This dramatic shift exposes a much larger historic transformation taking place within the House of Windsor. For over 7 decades, Queen Elizabeth II served as the undisputed, absolute gravitational center of the entire family. Her moral authority was so absolute and her presence so revered that no family member would dare cause administrative friction or drag corporate lawyers into private property matters. Her quiet disapproval was the ultimate deterrent, but with her passing, that immense unifying gravity permanently evaporated. King Charles, despite his sovereign title, simply does not command the same unquestioned patriarchal authority over his siblings that his late mother possessed. He is a brother, a husband, and a father, navigating complex family dynamics without the shield of his mother's legendary status. In this new, uncertain era, informal honor codes and verbal agreements are no longer sufficient to guarantee protection. Princess Anne recognized this reality far quicker than anyone else. Her decision to use legal paperwork was not an act of paranoia or pettiness. It was a cold, realistic recognition that the old system died with Queen Elizabeth. And the new system requires hard legal protections to ensure her branch of the family, including her children, Peter Phillips and Zara Tindall, is never marginalized by future household realignments. No, Princess Anne isn't just reacting to the immediate drama of Queen Camilla or the fall of Prince Andrew. She is playing the long game, looking far into the future at how the royal estates will be managed when Prince William eventually ascends the throne. William and Catherine already possess a massive, deeply rooted presence at Sandringham through Anmer Hall, where their children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, are building their fondest childhood memories. By securing binding, documented rights to her family's historic wing today, Anne is ensuring that her children and grandchildren retain their rightful place within the physical landscape of the monarchy for generations to come, regardless of who sits on the throne or which queen consort attempts to rewrite the rules. Furthermore, this move sets a massive institutional precedent that could completely revolutionize how the royal family manages its vast private wealth going forward. In a modern era defined by intense media scrutiny, financial auditing, and demands for total transparency, relying on vague, unwritten agreements for private property usage is an outdated liability. By converting informal understandings into clear, documented licensing contracts, Princess Anne has introduced a level of legal clarity that actually protects the institution from future public relations disasters and internal property feuds. Other senior royals, including Prince Edward, Princess Beatrice, and Princess Eugenie, may soon be forced to follow her lead, securing their own residential footprints through binding legal documentation. As the quiet legal lockdown remains fully in force at Sandringham, the physical locks have been verified, the binding contracts rest securely in legal vaults, and a historic wing of the estate stands as a permanent, unyielding boundary line between two women who were never destined to be friends. Queen Camilla has been forced to seek personal sanctuary elsewhere, King Charles remains caught in the silent middle, and Princess Anne has once again proven that when it comes to defending the long-term integrity of her bloodline, she will outmaneuver anyone who stands in her way. The crown moves forward into an uncertain future, bruised by internal divisions, but fundamentally reshaped by a brilliant act of legal iron discipline that the palace walls could not hide. The operational realities within the Sandringham compound have grown incredibly stark as the administrative quarantine takes hold. Courtiers have noted that internal mail routing, security patrols, and room assignments have shifted away from standard palace networks. The absolute lock placed on this historic wing means that the private spaces associated with the Princess Royal are fully isolated, effectively drawing a visible perimeter inside the sovereign's favorite retreat. Staff members are forced to follow hyper-specific protocols, avoiding the cross-contamination of schedules that previously allowed the households to mix seamlessly during the holiday seasons. This deep division reflects a chilling transformation of the family's inner ring, demonstrating that when unwritten codes vanish, legal frameworks step in to fill the vacuum. For the first time in modern history, the House of Windsor is operating under the cold, precise metrics of contract law rather than the warm traditions of bloodline loyalty. The internal mechanisms are now governed by expectations that are entirely written down, leaving absolutely no room for misunderstanding, manipulation, or soft power overreaches. As the estate prepares for the upcoming transition of the seasons, the silent wall built by Princess Anne remains completely unyielding. King Charles continues his battles behind closed doors. Queen Camilla navigates the heavy realization of her limited perimeter, and the Wales line looks on, knowing that the legal templates established today will safeguard their future tomorrow. The empire survives, not by pretending the fractures do not exist, but by locking them down under the absolute authority of the law. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like this video, leave your honest thoughts in the comment section below, and subscribe to this channel right now so you never miss another urgent, breaking update from behind the palace gates. We will see you in the next video.